So last night we had Central Committee um, for the Democratic Party of Orange County. And, there's a lot of people across the country who their entire political involvement is just simply social media, right? Like it's entirely social media, whether it's just doing political commentary or it's just going online and being like an internet warrior. That's like all, like they don't go to meetings and stuff, but then there's a lot of people who do, and it'd be surprising to a lot of these folks who are on Twitter and stuff who's actually showing up to these meetings. For as much as you guys, a lot of you are out there like the Democratic Party is so horrible. Do you know who actually makes up the Democratic Party? Do you know who makes up the Democratic Party? A lot of them are people who you believe to be your allies because they have been working to get into the party and have some level of control, right? So I've been doing commentary for a long time because I attend the meetings, and so I observe what happens, and I have my own thoughts on what happens. And some of the stuff, like, plus when you're on the actual Zoom meetings, you get to read the chats or participate in the chats or whatever. I'm an observer. I do not have a party position. I'm an observer. But some of these folks have party positions. They have some pretty solid party positions. Um, I was reading the chat last night, and I have to tell. I'm not going to drop names. I'm not going to drop names because they're already mad at me. They're already mad at me. But it is very disturbing to me that there are certain progressives. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I live streaming? Am I bothering you? Because I'm live streaming. Cat's out here again. There are certain progressives who spend more of their energy defending MAGA people, defending Boogaloo Boys and shit, and saying, oh, yeah, well, we need to be open and accessible to everybody, except for the one, open and accessible to everybody except for people like me who are actually doing the work, right? It's some of the talking out of both sides of mouth is just insane. Okay, so yeah, there was a comment in the chat last night about the so when Biden came to do a rally for Gavin Newsom, what was a couple weeks ago or something, a lot of, I think they must have sent the invites out specifically to like Central Committee members in the neighboring counties because not all of us even knew this was happening. And it was, I think, a couple hundred people attended this rally. So it wasn't like everybody knew. It was like something for Central Committee members, I think, or maybe assembly delegates and stuff who they anticipated would be volunteers. It was like kind of like a volunteer rally. And outside of this rally were a lot of MAGA protesters who apparently were incredibly vulgar and really harassing the attendees of this event. It surprises me that one of our progressives put a comment in the chat saying, which I don't recall reading anything in the chat or hearing anything on the Zoom, calling these folks names other than MAGA. I mean, which is what they are, right? But there was a comment in the chat saying, let's make sure we don't call them names. Why is the energy being spent there defending these folks who are brainwashed, believe in QAnon, and are harassing Democrats, demonizing Democrats, basically believe that they're lizard people? I don't understand why the energy would be spent there. And like that same network of people is also like, I had a phone call later. Like I was on the phone last night after I sang Nothing Compares to You. I was on the phone and we were talking a little bit about some of the fakes out there, the people who show up and act like they're in charge. even though they're not really like even they had nothing to do with the organizing of the event, or they did. There are a couple people that I can think of off the top of my head who show up and act like they are way more important than they really are, and act like that they are doing things that they're not doing. One of them was, okay, so when I was a Bernie Victory captain, I had weekly training calls with Sophie. What was her last name? Lasser or something like that. She was like the training coach for all of the Bernie Victory captains, and we had like a weekly call where we would get our instructions of how we were supposed to organize. We would get pep talks. We would get training. We would be told about like who's on the leaderboard and stuff. And we also had coaches. We also had coaches who would check in with us once a week or once every 2 weeks. My coach still freaking checks in on me, you guys. My coach is so rad. She even has offered up to be an employment reference for me and everything. She's so rad. I gotta check in with her. I haven't talked to her in a little bit. But she checks in on me, right? So I gotta give kudos to the Bernie campaign for that. The Victory Captain program was pretty rad. We got a lot of training. We got a lot of attention. We had a lot of support. It varied by state what you got, but it was pretty rad. So there was a conversation I had with one of the leaders in PDA last summer. It was last summer when I was talking about one of the problematic people in Los Angeles, and I was like, look, this dude, Carlos Marroquin, he appears to be running a lot of grifts. He's got a lot of weird fundraising things that he keeps doing. That's the She Does, the Showers of Hope. There's some very bizarre stories coming out around these fundraising grifts. The whole the food bank thing where they weren't wearing masks and stuff. They weren't. And then the podcast, the live stream series he was doing where he was like had his Scooby-Doo moment. He's like admitting everything that they did about using Bernie's name to set up events, and then having people sign up through their own database so that they could collect the names, and then trying to sell that data back to the campaign, and then wondering why they didn't get offered jobs from the campaign and stuff. So when I was on the phone with this particular PDA leader last summer expressing my concerns about what's happening here, because he was very upset that I was saying things about this on my wall, I ultimately ended up blocking this dude because he kept trying to monitor my social media. And my understanding is that he has also been adding himself to local PDA chapters so that at a moment's notice he can take over your social media assets. They tried to get in on mine, and I had said hell no. I spent a lot of time building up my pages. Hell no, you can't have access to my pages. That's what they're doing though. That's not. This is another reason why I think PDA has to do a lot of reformation, because if you're asking people to do a bunch of work and you're giving them no autonomy and you're just like, we could take your assets at any moment, that's not cool. But anyway, the conversation that we were having was about how, about Carlos Marroquin and his staff. And this member said, well, he got busloads of volunteers to come out to Arizona. And I said, did he? Because when I was a Bernie Victory captain, they were coordinating that through the campaign. Those buses were being coordinated through the campaign. We were being told about them. We were being given specific instructions about the Bernie journeys. And his name was never mentioned. His name was never mentioned, and he has admitted himself that he never worked for the campaign. So how the hell was he responsible for coordinating these buses coming out of LA? If he didn't work for the campaign, his name is never mentioned as a volunteer, as somebody, as a point of contact for these buses. But we were going through training every week and being told about the buses and told how to handle the situation. The deceptive bullshit, the dishonesty surrounding a lot of people in progressive politics in California is really, it's so disheartening. It's sad. It's sad. And the you have to see how influenced these folks are by the Jimmy Dore Network, by the Movement for the People's Party, and their willingness to be like, well, don't call these people Nazis. If you're spending your entire day demonizing the folks who actually agree with you and are fighting for the legislation that you're fighting for, you're spending all your time demonizing those people while simultaneously saying, but we need to reach out the olive branch to the freaking Nazis out there that are pushing QAnon and MAGA and protesting our events and stuff. Your priorities are really in the wrong fucking place if you're doing that bullshit. Thwarting the efforts of the organizers around you while simultaneously trying to praise Nazis. Come on. So that's some of my thoughts from what was happening on in the sidebars of Central Committee last night. There are some folks that really need to realign their priorities, because you're not gonna get social programs by aligning with these people. They're just gonna make you look like fools. That's it. They're gonna make you look like fools. But yeah, these folks, like Carlos Marroquin and Don Ford, they show up to places and act like they're fucking in charge, but they actually aren't even connected to the event. I've seen this happen several times now. These are Hollywood performers, basically. They show up, they act like they're in charge, and act like they're responsible for what's happening, and aren't connected to it.